You did it. We did it. Everyone did it. We made it to week 17. We are here, the week of the year. We spent hours, days, weeks, months drafting these teams just to get one or maybe two or a couple. Any team into week 17 is a success, and we're here. It's here. We're ready to start breaking it down. We're going to dive into some of my advancing teams that I have into week 17, some of your advancing teams. This is a safe space you can share your near misses, the things you're tilting. We're also going to start to dig in to the week 17 games, see what we're excited about, talk through the fun schedule, a lot of fun games this week. But first, we have to kick off week 17 with the one, the only, the original week 17 best ball shanty.
There once was a team we didn't agree, not on builds, not on week 17. So we gathered round and said our piece. So stack my Twitter, bro, stack. Soon may week 17 come. If you don't have a stack, your team is done. One day when the season is gone, I'll take your money and go. All the engagement farmers gathered round, and they spread out seeds from a thread they found, with hopes that people would stick around to like every tweet they tweet. Soon may week 17 come. If you don't have a stack, your team is done. One day when the season is gone, I'll take your money and go. Well, the touts were mad cause their crypto dipped, and they lost on every top shot they ripped. When they entered drafts, their picks got pipped. Tough scene as they all got rugged. Soon may week 17 come. If you don't have a stack, your team is done. One day when the season is gone, I'll take your money and go. I cracked a smile and a funny laugh, cause I'll never draft a running back. I can't get away from this KC stack. Don't make me broke Mahomes. Soon may week 17 come. If you don't have a stack, your team is done. One day when the season is gone, I'll take your money and go. We argued robust and zero RB, but we all agreed no Tennessee. We yelled what a bust Trey Lance will be. Imagine drafting ETN. Soon may week 17 come. If you don't have a stack, your team is done. One day when the season is gone, I'll take your money and go. It was hopeless till week 17 arrived. He checked his app and had a team survive. It correlated, what a surprise. Oh, ship it, Chiefs and Broncos. Soon may week 17 come. If you don't have a stack, your team is done. One day when the season is gone, I'll take your money and go. Woo.
We had to kick off the week with the good old-fashioned week 17 shanty. I love that video. Well, two things. I love and hate that video because, one, I've been humming it all day, singing it all day, and I hate those three guys for getting this absurd song stuck into my head. But it's really funny to look back. If you had not seen that before, the reason we played that is clearly a long-running bit of week 17. Lots of week 17 jokes, lots of which triggered a lot of people. And so Rob and Dave and Jesse put together an awesome music video in, I don't know, June or something, May, way early in the off season. And the two moments of the whole, I guess three. One turns out to be almost accurate with something about no Tennessee, right? Proclaiming we don't want any Titans, which does feel pretty good right about now. Obviously, Derrick Henry's had a couple good weeks, but Derrick Henry now may not play in week 17. And Tennessee, the Titans are an absolute disaster without Ryan Tannehill. They're a disaster anyway. Very clearly a disaster without Ryan Tannehill. But imagine the clip of imagine drafting ETN. If you have ETN in week 17, you're feeling pretty good. You're feeling really good against the Texans. And then ship it, Chiefs and Broncos was a week 17 game that sure seemed fun in June. Doesn't seem so fun anymore. Certainly seems one-sided. You're not upset about your Chiefs, but I don't think anybody's particularly excited about having any Broncos in week 17. So anyway, I love the shout out GTO. Best ball song was surprisingly good. I enjoy it. And we're going to try to do some more little fun stuff like that. But you suffered through Rob's awful music skills for 2 minutes. Appreciate you. Really excited for this week. You're probably going to hear from me and Rob and all of us too much. Going to try to bring the rest of the crew in and maybe some guests and just have some fun with week 17. But we're going to kick it off today. And I'm going to walk through a couple of my teams that advanced. I have 3 total teams I drafted. Just for rough math, we'll call it 500 teams. I think it was a little less. But pretty close, like 480 something total teams across Underdog and DraftKings. I do have some drafters teams. My drafters teams are terrible, so we don't even need to mention them. But across DraftKings and Underdog, I have, let's call it 500. I drafted 500 teams, and I have 3, all of them on DraftKings, actually. Got wiped out this week on Underdog. Only one team had a real sweat, but that was about it. For the folks in chat, before we get started, if you're looking to post some of your teams that have advanced and we can pull them up on the show, put them in the Discord. If you're not in the Discord, there's a link to the Discord in the description of this video, and go in there, and under the community section, there is a draft review submission channel. Hop on in there, post it in there, and I'll try to get through about as many of those as I can, talk through them, etc. So that's where you can go to put those in. Yeah, it is funny. Just double back. Jonathan says, imagine having Pacheco against the Broncos. It is funny. It was obviously McKinnon's first monster game was against the Broncos, but Pacheco, like, who would have thought in June or May or whatever that the guy you probably want the most in the whole game is maybe Isaiah Pacheco, definitely him or Jerick McKinnon. Obviously, you're fine having Travis Kelce, but it's just funny, right? That, like, we would have said, well, Travis Kelce and Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton and Javonte Williams and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And now it's like, maybe Pacheco's the best guy in that game. Omar says, you mean my Malik Willis double stack isn't the one you need on Sunday? Well, they play Thursday. So it'll be the one you need on, well, I guess it's a 50-50 chance, less than 50-50, right? But it's a one stack on Thursday that technically could be the one you need to start the week. The old Malik Willis to Treylon Burks and Robert Woods. Yeah, I'm sure that one's going to go over really well. And for anyone curious, I'm looking at the news right now. Derrick Henry did practice today. Tannehill still not back at practice, and a litany of other Titans not at practice today. But Derrick Henry did practice today. So if anyone was worried about that. All right. Before we get into your teams and then start to dive into some of week 17, both from injuries, matchups, maybe some ownership, we'll definitely be talking through all that stuff throughout the course of this week. But before we get into it, I'm just going to walk through my teams, do it this one time. This week, you guys can see what I'm working with, how I got some of these teams into week 17, which contests I'm in. So if you are also in these contests, we can, duke it out over the course of the next week, 6 days, 7 days, whatever. Like I said, got wiped out on Underdog this week. Had 4 BBM teams in the semifinals. Didn't really have a super strong sweat. Had one really good team that scored one mid to upper 140s, but the pod I was in was just loaded. I didn't really have a chance. And then the team that scored the best for me on Underdog this week was a Hurts and Kyler team. So that sucked. I believe that was a Kittle team. Whatever. Not important. Didn't really have any real sweats on Underdog. So I will be rooting for every one of you guys in Best Ball Mania 3 and the Big Dog Finals and all of that, because I have zero rooting interest over there. I have three DraftKings teams. Could have got as many as 5, I believe, if last night had gone a little bit differently, and Sunday night had gone a little bit differently, but that's okay. I'm pretty pumped about my 2 of them for sure. Pretty pumped about 2 of them. The one that you see here on your screen is in the $1 million touchdown dance on DK, which was I can pull up the contest details. Oh, I guess this is not the perfect page for this. Anyway, obviously this is not super helpful. Yeah, not a good place to see the total contest details, but $25 entry fee. Again, $1 million total prize pool. You have 54 people in the final round, I believe. 54 people in the final round. So pretty pumped for that one. You know, a 1 in 54 shot at 200 grand obviously is not 2 million, but nobody's scoffing at 200 grand. And I believe the team I have, this is one thing I do want to talk quite a bit about this week. People are, rightfully so, we're all excited getting the teams through to week 17. We're excited to share them, think about them, talk about them, you know, whatever. But thinking through your team relative to the contest you're in, I think is like looking at a $5 DraftKings Millie Maker team, which we'll get to. We can compare that next team that I have here. The things that you're going to need, the strength that team needs to be, maybe some of the leverage points that team needs to have and needs to hit, right? That Millie Maker type team is probably needing to be something a little bit different and stronger than, say, this team, right? This team only has to beat 53 other teams. And your Millie Maker team needs to beat almost 1,000. You know, it's 900 and something teams. We'll just call it 1,000. You got to beat 1,000 other teams in the $5 Millie Maker final, right? On Underdog, you got to beat 469 in Best Ball Mania 3. I know a lot of the puppies are a little bit smaller, right? The big dog is smaller. You get into a lot of these other contests are quite different. So the type of team you need in a lot of these tournaments is drastically different. And so that's why specifically for this team, I brought it up first because I'm pretty excited for it. The first thing is that it's a Jalen Hurts team. And so that could be very good or that could be very bad. You see down here, it has the it's an Eagles onslaught basically. So you see Miles Sanders is also on this team. AJ Brown is on this team and Devonta Smith is on this team. So Hurts, AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, and Miles Sanders loaded up on Eagles. So clearly I want Jalen Hurts to play. Obviously, that's a given. But on the flip side, in the 54-man field, just having Trevor Lawrence, right? Being able to get Trevor Lawrence through, and I know there's probably a lot of people out there like this, right? You got Trevor, you were relying up, maybe you had Hurts Lawrence. It was probably one of the more popular combos of quarterbacks, right? Maybe you had Hurts and Lawrence. Last week, especially if you listen to our content here, you know, we were not hopeful for the Jags. We were certainly not hopeful for Zay Jones. We talked about that, which came to fruition. We were not hopeful for Christian Kirk, like a smidge of maybe Travis Etienne, and you're just praying for a decent game from Trevor Lawrence. Now, it turned out that this team did pretty well, so it didn't really need a huge Lawrence game, but that's easy to say now. You know, 19 points from Lawrence got it done. And so being able to get Lawrence in and get Hurts in is kind of one of the pairings I'm most excited for, because if you haven't looked at the schedule yet, the Jags play the Texans, and they should put up a big number here, especially as the Texans are kind of pushing back, right, on teams, and their offense is playing better. So if the Jags, assuming they play their guys, I haven't heard anything about them resting guys, although I saw some rumors of that. Having a Jag stack and an Eagle stack, and this team, it is Lawrence, Evan Ingram, Christian Kirk, and Zay Jones. So I just loaded up on those two teams for the most part, Jags and Eagles. Obviously feel pretty good about that right now. Running backs are bad. The running backs are real bad. But again, why I'm excited about this team is because if I had this team in the $5 milli, it's a pretty loaded team at quarterback and wide receiver, and tight end's fine. But it is probably too weak at running back to take down to beat 1,000 other awesome teams. But to beat 53 other awesome teams, I think there's probably enough juice here. And so just real quick to run down the running backs, James Cook and Michael Carter, those are the two scores I used last week. Obviously, Miles Sanders, as I mentioned, and then Zach Moss. I'm not going to sit here and pound the table for Zach Moss, but the volume has been nice despite how terrible the Colts offense is. You never know. Against the Giants this week, the Colts play the Giants. If Zach Moss continues to get a heavy role, he's at least in play. But, I need two of Miles Sanders, Zach Moss, James Cook, and Michael Carter because my other running backs are Melvin Gordon, Mark Ingram, and Amir Abdullah. A bunch of nothing. But the wide receivers, the quarterbacks, and the wide receivers are the strength of this team. As Craig says, Jefferson Lamb combo, pretty uncommon, given their ADPs. Yeah, getting Jefferson and CD together is nice. I would be surprised if there's any other Jefferson and CD. Jefferson's going to be popular, but I would still be surprised if there's any other Jefferson CD teams. Maybe one or something. So that would be that's a nice start, having those two guys at wide receiver, CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson, the aforementioned Eagles duo, Devonta Smith and AJ Brown. Add on my guy Gabe Davis, add on Christian Kirk, add on Zay Jones, add on Elijah Moore, who now maybe has a little bit of life with Mike White back, right? And the wide receivers are really good on this team. Evan Ingram at tight end with David Njoku and Brevin Jordan. It's okay. Probably need Evan Ingram to continue to be Travis Kelce out there. But I wanted to pull this up because I just share all my, I share my exposure all summer. I share my teams, whatever. I don't care if people see what it is, and you guys can see the types of teams that right. It's easy to go through Twitter and you're like, damn, all these people have these awesome teams. And sometimes it's true and sometimes it's not. And then in this specific contest, I wanted to point out, because I do think that context about contests, say that 10 times fast. The context about contests is important. And this team is such a good example of it, because it's a really good team, I think, with really good wide receivers, potentially really good, two good quarterbacks, good enough at tight end, but it really doesn't have the juice at running back to win a large field tournament. It just doesn't. A miracle, right? A Miles Sanders 30-point game and a James Cook 20-point game, I guess technically could get it there, but that's that would be really a lucky run out. But in the small field, I think it's got some juice. I don't know. It's hard to say. GA says JJ Lamb probably wasn't that unique on DK. I mean, I would say it's unique. The ADPs definitely didn't align. So it's definitely going to be unique. Anything goes on DraftKings. So it's certainly less unique on DraftKings than on Underdog. That is a fact, where CD was definitely really at the end of the first round. It's a little bit more, possible, but we're talking about the third overall pick, Justin Jefferson. He would have to slide, and CD would still have to slide, even if Justin Jefferson slid right on DraftKings. So I think it's probably a little bit unique. Let me see. Winky, shout out Winky. You're in this $25. What the hell is it called? I never know the contest names. I just call it the $25. Super lame. But in DFS, DraftKings, they always change a lot of names around and stuff. So it's like touchdown dance, flea flicker, all that shit. I don't know. I don't know what the contest names are. So it's the $25. But you're in here too. That's awesome. I really do. I'm just gonna be, sorry for anybody that's not a part of Spike Week or not one of even just us best ball sickos that are running around here. If I'm not gonna win, I'm not rooting for you. I'm rooting for all you guys in the chat here, Winky and Jenks and Updog and Craig, double Craigs and CJs, Francisco, everybody, all you guys. Shout out to you guys. This is fun. This is what we spent months and months and months debating Gabe Davis and Javonte Williams, wasting hours upon hours of our lives debating these players who are truly completely useless now. I mean, I guess Gabe isn't useless, but So much uselessness. Isn't it really funny, though, how much time we spent debating like Josh Jacobs for the last 2 months? I mean, how many man hours do you think were spent, not just me or us, or not even just like in the Spike Week Discord? How many man hours do you think debating, talking about whiffing on Josh Jacobs and all that has happened over the course of the last 2 months? And that dude is irrelevant in the best ball players. He has been irrelevant. He's getting cooked by Tyler Algier in the best ball playoffs, right? Both Bills running backs are outscoring Josh Jacobs. Both of them. Like, it's so funny. And I mean, clearly Josh Jacobs was just an absolute smash, but this game is so crazy that the dude was by far the MVP of the regular season, like certainly the MVP of drafters, if you played on drafters, and cooked, useless. You look at other people having Josh Jacobs teams and you don't even care. You don't care. And you don't even care if he's on yours. His matchup this week is absolutely horrible. Really, really funny. Agreed. I actually don't think I have any Algier. Joey says, hope Algier can keep it going this week. I'm sad because Algier was really starting to pop, and he was on my best BBM team that had a chance, my only BBM team that had a chance. So totally agree with you, though. I think Algier is a great guy to have on teams. Has a much better matchup this week than last on the ground, and he still had a good game last week. I think Algier is, pretty sneaky here. Not going to be, he's not going to be 2% in your finals, depending upon what tournament you're in, but he's not going to be, he's not going to be Jerick McKinnon or somebody like that. So, or CMC or whatever. So that's Josh says, if I never heard someone talk about Gabe Davis ever again, I still wouldn't forget about him. You and me both, brother. I'm trying to make sure I didn't miss any questions or comments. Austin says, perfect segue into my next team, but one team in the DK Millie finals and Herbert is your QB. That's interesting. And what a sweat. Austin needed 5 points out of Justin Herbert last night, which feels like the lock of all locks, right? Just don't pull a Kyler and get hurt right away. And didn't get hurt, and it was still a sweat. He got to 7.5, barely, but hey, got you there, chip in a chair. And now you have Herbert and Mike Williams here in week 17 against a resurgent Rams team. That game is all of a sudden turning into a little more fun of a game to have exposure to than we thought before. And the Broncos game continually gets worse and worse and worse and worse. So that's funny. Francisco has the big dog. Yeah, I know there's been a lot of speculation about it and stuff, and it's certainly possible with the short week and everything that the big dog doesn't play, but I would be surprised. I would still be surprised. I would say him playing is still the favorite. Him sitting is the underdog. If I were handicapping it, I think that's what I would say. Let me see here. 10 of 63 have Algier. Did they advance? Did somebody advance? Where or you had 10 of 63? Or I'm sorry, I haven't been following Underdog. I didn't advance any. So if they did some advancements, I have missed it. Let's see. Is Albert O alive? He's breathing. He's technically a living human being. He's not technically a living football player. Although somebody was saying I didn't watch the second half of Rams Broncos. Believe it or not, I didn't spend my middle of my Christmas day watching Tyler Higbee rip the soul out of multiple teams as another tight end went for 30 fantasy points to bury me. But somebody mentioned that maybe Dulcich got hurt this in the second half or something. Again, I didn't see it, and I haven't seen anything. I haven't looked either. So it would be absolutely hilarious if somehow Alberto did get on the field and was a factor against the Chiefs. I don't see it happening. But by the way, thank you. Jameson said Dulcich did sustain an injury. So the way that this season has gone, with Cam Akers popping up and James Conner popping up, right, and Kendrick Bourne popping up and Fat Lenny popping up, all these guys who didn't do shit. They were some of the worst, literally, Cam Akers might have been the worst pick in fantasy this year. He's up there with the worst picks in fantasy. And now you're like, I kind of am scared of not having Cam Akers on my team. He's going to be relatively owned probably in the finals. Gets the Chargers run defense. It's what an absolute shit show. Rise of the dead, yes. 15, at least 15 and 16 were definitely the rise of the dead. And Hoagie says Underdog has advanced teams to the finals. So in case you made it, you can check your teams. All right. My team that will be competing with Joey's, was it Joey's? Joey, was it your Millie team that you were that we brought up? We brought up earlier. No, Austin's Millie team. So my team that will be competing against Austin in the DraftKings Millie final is another Trevor Lawrence team, not Jalen Hurts this time. The reason why I knew that both of the Bills guys crushed is because I literally have my one Millie Maker team has both Devin Singletary and James Cook on it. Another Justin Jefferson team, another Devonta Smith team. Oops. Another Evan Ingram team. T. Higgins on this one instead of either, right? So there's the other team had CD and AJ Brown. This team has T. Higgins. And then actually pretty good running backs for a 0 RB room. Both of the Bills guys, right? Tony Pollard, Jerick McKinnon, Ramondre Stevenson, J.D. McKissick out, obviously. But what I'm kind of excited about is obviously not having one of the elite quarterbacks is, especially if Hurts plays, is not super ideal. But if you're going to pick two quarterbacks, in my opinion, to have that aren't the elites, let's just assume Tua plays. I'm not sure that Tua is going to play. But like I would want Lawrence and Justin Fields if I were going to pick the guys. Like, give me two guys who can compete with the superstar high upside guys. I think it's Lawrence and Fields this week. And my Millie team has those two. It also has Kenny Pickett. But Justin Fields at one quarterback against the Lions. Trevor Lawrence as my other quarterback again, as we discussed before. Kenny Pickett, I'm not, certainly not expecting to use his score against the Ravens this week. But this team does need old Dulcich this week, so hopefully his injury is not too bad, and I would feel okay about Ingram and Dulcich as my two tight ends. The third one is Brevin Jordan. I drafted way too much Brevin Jordan, man. He's represented on like all my finals teams, which doesn't make me feel very good. But hey, what's his name? The other tight end got hurt. Yeah, Tegan, Quentin Tarantino, whatever his name is, got hurt. So maybe Brevin could pop up. He's in that Jags game. We're going to get the Brevin Jordan spike week in week 17 as the bring back to the Jags decks. But so this team, stronger running backs, right? So I'm pretty excited for that. I don't feel worried about the running backs on this team. You're just like, can one of the Bills pop up? Always feel pretty good about Tony Pollard. Hard not to feel decent, at least about Jerick McKinnon, even though we need the Broncos to push back a little bit. And even if Damian Harris is back, I think Ramondre's totally fine this week, right? The issue with this team is the wide receivers are good, but man, if Debo was anybody, like if Debo was another second round pick, I actually would feel like this team was like super duper live. And not that it isn't, but it's drawing a lot more thin just by it's crazy, right? So you remove McKissick. Brevin Jordan is basically a non-factor, right? Byron Pringle is playing every snap for the Bears. That's about the only positive thing you can say about him. And then like Pickett is pretty useless, right? So you just remove a handful of guys, 4 or 5 guys, and the receivers are good, right? Obviously Justin Jefferson, Devonta Smith, T. Higgins. But then it's like, I need 3 or 4 of those guys plus Gabe, plus Deontay, Adam Thielen. It's just, it can get there. I'm excited for this team. I think but would I like trade, like say one of my built, would I trade James Cook for another wide receiver? Yeah, probably, for Garrett Wilson, put Garrett Wilson on this team instead of James Cook. And I would be like, okay, even with Debo, this one's getting sweaty. Still rooting for it. Still think it's got a lot of juice, right? Anything can happen. there is a lot of good players on here, but just the Debo thing, and he might be back. I know that they're talking about Debo potentially returning to practice this week, but it's hard to imagine in his first game back that he puts up a spike week that help. I got to beat 1,000 other people. I don't know that Debo's going to play into that, but you never know. Two touchdowns, good football player, could happen at any time. So that's my Millie Maker team. Another one, excited for it. The amount of juice it has at running back, the 2 quarterbacks it has. Honestly, the 2 tight ends I think are fine too. It's just actually just like I think this team is a good example of this Millie Maker thing, where it's like, can it win? I think so. Yeah, technically it can win, but it's going to be 1,000 other teams that are just as good as this one. And so you really do kind of need all that firepower. And it's like, God damn it, if Debo was anybody else on this team, you'd be like, okay, this team can compete with every single team in this tournament. Now I think it's a dog. Of course it's a dog. It's a 1 in 1,000. But you could make a case if Debo were Tyreek, right? Or AJ Brown or somebody helpful, anybody, particularly at wide receiver. This team probably projects nearly as well as any of the teams that were in the final. So, one last team that I am going to share of mine, and then we'll move on to you guys' teams before we get into some Week 17 chatter. I believe this was the $9 3 entry max. You see the 3 entry max here. The button hook, I believe, was $9 entry fee, 3 entry max tournament. I believe this is 30 teams in the final, 10K to first place. So pretty flat payout structure, which is nice. But this team's drawn real thin. Real thin. This team is drawing. However, it is a Mahomes-Kelsey team. So I'm pretty excited about that. Mahomes-Kelsey got A.J. Dillon, Tony Pollard, Rachaad White, which I think is probably pretty fine at running back for this field. But you see down here at the bottom, Bateman, Melvin, Robbie, Trubisky, Evans, Wandale, all totally dust, right? Basically all guaranteed zeros. Naheem Hines, basically a 0. So we're talking about 7 guys dead on this team. Josh Kelly, frankly, about close to a 0. KJ Osborne had his one big game. Shout out to him. That's it. Tyler Boyd, I know, got banged up and came back in, I believe. But technically, can he get there? Yep. So we'll be rooting on Gabe and Boyd on Monday night. But again, just really thin, man. Definitely going to need the Mahomes-Kelsey pairing. Really only has 3 running backs. And then really only has, 5 wide receivers? I guess 6 if you technically count KJ Osborne. And they're fine. CeeDee, Devonta Smith, Jacoby Myers, Gabe Davis, Tyler Boyd, KJ Osborne. So shout out Rob. Rob is also in the $9. You're probably happy seeing my team that's there in the $9. You just gained a bunch of expected value looking at my shitty team in the $9 finals. So I'm clearly going to be sweating those other 2 teams a lot more than this one. But again, like we talked about, the kind of the difference between that $25 tournament, or like if you're in the big dog finals, right? The big dog finals is like 65 people on underdog or something like that. If you're in some of these tournaments, right? If you happen to make the 555 finals or the $333 finals or whatever, right? You don't need perfection. Like technically this team could win this $9 single. It's because it's only 30 people. Now, I don't really think it has much of a chance, but there's such different expectations depending upon the tournament that you are in. Yeah. See, of course, Rob has a, I don't know if he's saying that he's been drinking already today or if his team is loaded or both, but Rob's loaded. Hopefully not too hammered yet, Rob, but it is week 17. Yeah, it's an interesting comment. Craig says, my one team has both Devin Singletary and James Cook, 2 Bills running backs together. He says that'll be more popular next year. It's definitely possible. I haven't thought that one through enough. I think if it will probably be more popular, but implemented wrong. I think. I don't want to get into a deep, thoughtful exercise around handcuffing and multiple running backs from the same team, but I think people will likely do it what I would perceive as the wrong way if they're going to do it. I actually kind of like it in that Bills scenario better than, say, an Alexander Madison and a Dalvin Cook. But we got plenty. We got a long after this week. We got a long time to get to all those. Shout out Liam. He says good luck in the finals. Good luck in the finals to you, Liam. I saw you got to 4 or 5 teams through. I think right. At least, and a bunch in the high stakes tournaments, which is absolutely fucking awesome to have a perfect spot. I mean, of course, we want to chase million or 2 million or whatever, but Liam's already got the $1 million or 2 million. So now he's going to go take down these small field tournaments, which we've talked a lot about here already, myself and Rob. So good luck to Liam. Kyle says Fields is borderline elite. That's getting against the Lions. Yeah. Pretty excited for Fields. Lundar already asking for when is the big board coming. I bet you they'll do the big board again. This is just mine. I'm throwing shit at the wall. My guess is that they will do the big board again, in January or February, maybe something like that. I would not be surprised if a contest opens like after this week once the playoff, as soon as the playoffs start, like something even before the big board to tickle everybody's fancy. You know what I mean? I would really not be surprised. They'll come up with a new one, and we'll be drafting 2023 teams while we're watching the wild card round of the NFL playoffs. I mean, Liam says big board with 500K to first. It would definitely fill. That's 100%. That's 100%. That is 100%. All right, we're gonna try to pull up some of these teams. It can always be a little tricky with the old Discord screen share, but we will make it through. First team is our good friend Steve, best ballin' on Underdog and best ballin' in the Discord. Look at this. Dragged a shout out to Trey Lance for being a wonderful teammate, helping keep Kirk in line even when they get down big, right? Trey Lance carrying this team into the Best Ball Mania 3 finals. But man, Cousins is not a guy that I think any of us really would have expected to really truly pop off like this. But that's the chaos of this stupid game that we play. That Kirk Cousins goes for 30 something and then goes for 24 on a week when quarterback scoring wasn't very high and a bunch of guys were out. Cousins became huge, and now he gets the Packers in week 17, which is, if you want to have an actual individual person against the Packers, it's probably, a run heavy running back because of how bad they are against the run. Like if you had Raheem Mostert last week, I would be really triggered because he only got 8. He ripped off like 45 yards in the first drive or two and ended up with only 8 carries, and Jeff Wilson stole the touchdown. But I think the Vikings still, the Packers defense is very much a run funnel. They're league worst in rush defense DVOA, and they're like 7th or something like that in pass defense DVOA. So it's not perfect to have Kirk Cousins, but dude, if you have Cousins to Jefferson, the Packers pass defense clearly, Tua went 9 for 12. Now, granted, one of them was a truly absurd yak play by Jalen Waddle, but Justin Jefferson can do that too. You know what I mean? Dalvin Cook can do that too on a screen pass or something like that. Tua going for 230 yards in the first half. I'm not afraid of the Packers defense. The only thing I'm afraid of, and then I'll move on from Kirk Cousins, probably enough about Kirk Cousins, but I think with Justin Jefferson being probably pretty popular, the only thing I'm worried about as someone who's really heavily invested in Justin Jefferson on my 2 best teams is the Packers like pace of play, even more so than I'm not worried about Jair. I'm not worried about the fact that they're a good pass defense for Justin Jefferson. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter for him. Would I prefer it was the Lions? Sure. But I'm not worried about the Packers pass defense. I'm worried about the fact that Aaron Rodgers runs the play clock down to 1 every single goddamn play. And they, particularly if Christian Watson is hurt, have almost no big play ability. Lazard is useless. Dobbs is who knows. And so the Packers game, I'm just a little concerned. We saw this in the second half. The Dolphins, before Tua started throwing interceptions all over the place, the Dolphins were still not horrible on offense. They weren't as crazy efficient as they were in the first half, but every Packers drive is like 12 plays and 8 minutes. And it's like, it just drains the whole clock on the half. And so that's my biggest concern. The Vikings defense will have to slow them down, which I don't know if they'll be able to do that, but need to dominate the ball, I think, and let Jefferson do his thing for Cousins. Saquon, can't say anything negative about Saquon. Colts matchup is totally fine. Josh Jacobs matchup is not amazing. Pretty bad. Sony Michel is your 4th running back. I respect the balls on the hyper fragile build with Saquon, Josh Jacobs, and Damian Harris, but maybe Damian Harris comes back for you. The matchup is fine for Damian and Ramondre. Maybe they get back to a little more split, and Damian Harris luck boxes 2 touchdowns. The wide receivers obviously on this team are killer. Justin Jefferson, Mike Williams, Deontay Johnson. Shout out Deontay. Looks like we're both rooting for Deontay this week, which is never a very comfortable feeling. But if we're going to get one, let's get it in week 17. the first Deontay Johnson spike week in his NFL career almost. Deontay Johnson, Garrett Wilson. Obviously, Garrett Wilson, awesome to have. Jahan Dotson, Devontae Parker, but then Pickens. Shout out John Mechie. And we were joking about the Lance being a good locker room guy, and Rob is joking about Lance being a good locker room guy. John Mechie, the real winner on this team, the real locker room guy. Shout out to him. Hopefully he comes back next year. And good enough tight ends. Tunyon is so, but obviously we've seen now multiple weeks in a row, Kittle Ingram is a more than sufficient, what do you want to call it? More than sufficient tight end room. All right, that's the first team. Yes, and as Felix says, Jefferson destroyed the Packers in week 1. So like I said, I'm not worried about it. Like, aren't you worried about Jair? Aren't you worried about this? We'll probably discuss some of them on this show and on the rest of our shows this week. There are guys I'm going to be worried about 100%, with their matchups. Just like we talked about with Zay last week. I'm not worried about Justin Jefferson. The only thing I'm worried about is the game environment for Justin Jefferson. That is it. This week is definitely going to be crazy. And I feel we talked about this, yesterday? Yeah, yesterday. Rob and I talked about this. We've been getting into so many good strategy conversations and everything. Now, the season's getting close to over. We feel like we have all these ideas and things we learned and whatever. I feel like almost like reinvigorated. I will not, we're going to get to, like Modog says, by June or July, and I will not be, that's not how I will be feeling. But right now, I feel that way. Lundar said, who is Brady going to try to get to earn incentives? Oh, does Evans have one for unrealized air yards? Yeah, if Mike Evans has a contract incentive for unrealized air yards, he's already hit it. So you don't have to worry about that. I don't know what the incentives look like. I know that some sites are digging into those, and that's all well and good. Jenks says, should we all drink 4 Locos this week for this? I cannot. I think we'll probably do. I don't know if we'll do it Sunday or we'll do it Monday. I mean, we'll definitely do a show Monday heading into Bills Bengals. But I mean, Bills Bengals is the last game of the best ball finals on Monday Night Football. Sunday we'll probably do something. I don't think I could do 4 Locos. However, I couldn't do it. Those taste so bad. I'm surprised they still make them. If I'm being, who is this? That's Josh's. Josh's team. What is this BBM also? I think you said you got a team in BBM, right? Puppy 4. Okay. Puppy 4. Ooh, Dak's a fun one. So we got Dak and Tua. Might be without Tua, we'll see. But I think against the Titans and Tua getting the Patriots, obviously the Patriots are not unbeatable. The Bengals just carved them up for half. So it's not like Tua can't help you, but I think you're more than fine just relying upon on Dak's score, particularly another CD team, another Gabe. Look at this, CD and Gabe on this team CD and team Gabe over here. Saquon obviously in a good spot. Dylan, I mean Aaron Jones. Dylan's super fascinating because he it's easier to dunk on the Kendrick Bournes and the James Connors and stuff of the world and the Cam Akers, but AJ Dillon was a 6th round pick on both sites, probably sometimes higher on Boomer FFPC or whatever. Literally, I don't think he had like a usable week all season. Did he score double digits ever all season? Like maybe very rarely, right? And now all of a sudden with Aaron Jones kind of banged up, they're very clearly kind of limiting Aaron Jones. AJ Dillon's been the leader in that backfield. He catches passes, he gets goal line work. It's not the perfect matchup against Minnesota, but it's fine. It's totally fine. He can score 2 touchdowns. Then James Cook, who we talked about, Jerick McKinnon. Shout out Donta Foreman. What a wonderful human being Donta Foreman is for that performance last week. I know that was one of my guys. That was one of my late round guys. He didn't end up getting him through on any of my teams, but he gave me a nice sweat with the big game. Wouldn't be expecting quite as big of a game, this week. But my Lord, the Lions had seemingly started to turn it around the last X amount of weeks. Like Dalvin Cook averaged 1 yard per carry against the Lions run defense. They had really like kind of shut a bunch of teams down, and the Panthers ran for like almost 400 yards on them. And then he gets Tampa. So Tampa's fine. I lied. Tampa is not the same run defense that they were once upon a time. So totally fine. Really good running back group. Jesus Christ. Saquon, AJ Dillon, Ramondre, James Cook, Jerick McKinnon, Donta Foreman. Good Lord. That's a good wide receiver room. And when you compare it, or when you combine it with the Dak CD stack, I don't want to be relying upon Gabe a lot, obviously, but we know the upside is always there for Gabe. Waddle, Ayuk. I still love Ayuk. I don't care. I'm not giving up, even though Kittle gets all the touchdowns nowadays. Kittle and CMC get all the touchdowns. I'm not giving up on Ayuk. I think he's an awesome guy to have in the finals. See if Claypool comes back. And hopefully Watson plays. But there's definitely enough juice in this wide receiver room. The tight ends is probably where you're a little bit worried. Need Hayden Hurst to come back or kind of luck box a touchdown from somebody. But you could get that from Hayden Hurst if he comes back. So that's the one weakness. But that's a good team. Gabe could be that random spike week at low ownership. Absolutely. And he is on all my teams. So we are praying. Jonathan said Tyler Algier was my guy. Worked out beautifully. An absolute smash pick here late down the stretch. A great guy to have on your teams. Jonathan also says, is there any chance Curtis Samuel smashes with Wentz back in there now? Wentz stepped in for Heineke last Sunday. I think so. I know they were winning games, but it was mostly in spite of Heineke, and they're going to win some games in spite of Wentz too, as opposed to Wentz helping them. But Wentz just elevates the ceiling, in my opinion, of all the guys on this offense. It gets ugly when it's ugly for Carson Wentz. He makes some really bad decisions, but he's willing to chuck that thing around, make some big plays happen. That makes big plays happen for the defense sometimes too. But I think he really elevates the potential of the offense, which is all we can root for. We don't care about the floor this week. We need all the big games we can get, right? All the big games we can get. Brian wants to know about Cousins or Daniel Jones. I think it's Cousins. All right. Let's see here. Next game. Steve, I will come back to your DK team just because we already hit. I want to hit a couple other people's. The FFPC main event. There's a new one. Also, I love that we're gonna pull up the one with my face on it. Actually, no, we're not. That makes me gross. In fifth place in the FFPC main event, down by less than 30. Dang it. And the team Jameson's team. You played Minshew last week. I assume you have Hurts. Yep. McKinnon, Ramondre, T, Jeff. Dude, we're rooting for the same guys. Let's go. Go take down the goddamn main event. Let's get Jalen Hurts back. Another big McKinnon week. Ramondre to get back on the saddle. Justin Jefferson, right? And then AJ Brown, of course. Cole Kmet getting the Lions. If you're ever going to feel comfortable about playing Cole Kmet, this is a good week for that. Godwin is just a locked and loaded flex play, right? In full PPR. Let's see here. What did I miss? Oh, then T ships it. T ships $1 million Monday night. Come from behind. Awesome team, dude. Holy shit. How did I not? Have you not posted that team before in the Discord? Absolutely unbelievable team. And what an awesome sweat. Awesome sweat. Crazy skills, BBM team, Dak, Rodgers, and Fields. So, I don't think Rodgers is, always going to help you. Yeah. Shout out to Updog saying good luck in the main. I mean, that team is what a sweat. Holy cow. That threw me off. Shout out Jameson. Dak and Fields, good tournament pairing. Oh man, got the Thursday night game stack. You really do need the big dog to play, huh? And maybe to get Aaron Jones back going here this week. You know what I'm saying? God damn. Can Aaron Jones get back on the field for this team? But Derrick Henry, Aaron Jones, Devin Singletary, Raheem Mostert, assuming they all play, right? Assuming Derrick Henry plays. Absolutely. You could get 3 scores out of these. You could get, you could use a flex guy out of this. This is such a good man. Hyper fragile after 2 years ago, right? After Justin Herzig won Best Ball Mania 1 or whatever. Best Ball Mania 1 with the hyper fragile team. Hyper fragile is totally a perfectly fine structure. There's lots of ways you could have been successful with this year. What I love about this is it's kind of this like balanced hyper fragile, right? When you would listen back in the day, when people would talk hyper fragile, they're like, I'm going to go RB, RB, RB. And they might even then take another one in like the 7th or 8th round, right? And they're like, well, I'm just going to win wide receiver because I'm going to draft 11 of them or 10 of them or whatever. But like what wins these large field tournaments, in my opinion, what has the highest probability to get crazy high upside from a hyper fragile team in these large field tournaments is this sort of flexible structure, similar to what Steve did too, is like what you did here. Steve was a little bit even crazier with Josh Jacobs as his RB2 on a hyper fragile team. But big dog, Aaron Jones, right? First 2 picks are running backs. That's totally fine and totally reasonable for a hyper fragile team. But then you're still, because you took those 2, you're going to turn it into a hyper fragile 4 running back build. But you don't say, okay, I got to force Cam Akers now, or I got to force whatever. I got to force this running back now because I'm going to go hyper fragile. You layer in, right, a Bills running back and the Bills lead running back and the Dolphins lead running back, but within later rounds, which allow you to still get, right? You don't have an absolute true elite quarterback, right, in the Mahomes era, but it allows you to get a really good quarterback still in Dak, and it allows you, look at all this juice you have at these other positions because you built a hyper fragile team with these kind of what other people would not feel comfortable doing a hyper fragile build with. But you said, I have my 2 starting running backs, Derrick Henry and Aaron Jones. Now I'm going to layer in Devin Singletary in the 9th round. I'm going to layer in Raheem Mostert in the 15th round. And those guys are going to close out my hyper fragile team. And that's going to allow me to use those 2 running backs, but I still get a really good quarterback. I still get George Kittle, an elite tight end. I still get, say whatever you want about Keenan Allen as an elite wide receiver. I'm not sure he's elite, right? But I still can get Keenan Allen, Terry McLaurin, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Devonta Smith. It's a really good top 4 wide receivers for a hyper fragile team, right? Awesome team. Yeah, gets the Noah Brown smash there at the end. Gets Sammy Watkins back on the on the Ravens. RIP to KJ Hamler, but maybe get Hardman back this week. This team absolutely has enough juice to ship that baby. BBM team, right? Yep, BBM team. Up Dogs, DK Millie team. We got to check out this fella. Oh, another Kirk Cousins team. Okay. Again, DK Millie, Eckler. It is very fitting that Up Dog has an Eckler team. I know you're an Eckler guy. So another good spot for Eckler this week, I think. Cousins. So this is fascinating. Cousins Hawkinson stack, right? Is there any? Okay, so a Cousins stack without Jefferson. That is really, really fascinating. And you have Lawrence also. But there's going to be Cousins is going to be attached to all Jefferson teams, right? And I don't mean that every Jefferson team is going to have Cousins, but I mean the Cousins teams are probably like going to be all Jefferson. So if you have Cousins, right? If Jefferson just goes for whatever 15 and Cousins throws for 303, but the touchdowns go to right Osborne, Hawkinson particularly. If we get the Hawkinson game from last week and it slows down Jefferson, you're gonna just shoot way past all these Jefferson teams. Yeah, exactly. J. Jeff leverage, awesome. Even then, Jalen Waddle, obviously we talked about AJ Dillon. Waddle, smash, can go ham like he did any given week. A little bit, Teddy can be okay. You would prefer Tua was in there. So maybe a slight ding, but obviously good running backs. Eckler, Dillon, McKinnon. Eckler, Dillon, McKinnon. So you're going to use Eckler's score, and then you need at least one of Dillon or McKinnon, right? Your wide receivers are good enough that you don't need to use one of those wide receivers in the flex. Got Lawrence and Cousins is a good group. I think you have Kirk and Zay. Yeah, you got the Jaguar stack. Only dead players are Sony Michel and Eno, which you don't really need. I guess Tony isn't perfectly awesome, but Tony's alive and he's playing wide receiver for the Chiefs. Anything can happen. This team is really fun. DJ Chark against the Bears. Fun team. I even like those secondary tight ends. Conklin gets Seattle. Bellinger gets the Colts. Awesome team. Every time I look at one of you guys' DK Millie teams, it does not make me feel more hopeful. I'll tell you that much. Here, let me see. Somebody mentioned Jose says, do you mind checking my lineup handle is B Boyd? Let me scroll. A lot of messages in here, but since you asked nicely, I will try to find your team here. Good Lord, there's a lot of teams in here. Did you post it in this channel? There's Winkies. I'm going to check Winkies after this. Post your do you mind checking my to Jose, go just post your team here in this channel in the Discord. Selfishly, we're going to go find I'm going to try to get through as many of these teams as possible. If I miss them, we'll be back tomorrow. If I don't get to, we don't have a ton of time left and there's a lot of teams in here, we'll be back tomorrow. Keep posting them in here. I promise we'll run through some more of them. I wanted to hit selfishly because I want to see what, God damn it, where did it go? I want to see what I'm working up against here with Winky's team that is in the $25 with me. So here we go. I hate the zoom on here. All right, I know it's a little tough for you guys to see, but I'll read it out. As a Josh Allen team, Josh Allen and Gabe. Do you have Diggs on this team? Yeah. So that's kind of interesting because I don't know how much of that we're going to see. Josh Allen for sure, and you probably won't be the only Josh Allen team, but the Josh Allen, given how bad Diggs and Gabe have been, and how Josh has been good, but other quarterbacks have been good too. I think that the Josh Allen stacks are, especially in that 54-man final, it's pretty fun. You have CD, Deontay, fucking Higbee. Of course, the Rams fan has Akers and Tyler Higbee carrying him. Just as you expected as a Rams fan, I am sure. Higbee and Cam Akers carrying the Bills stack to the finals. But lots of juice here on this team. McKinnon, who I imagine is going to be pretty chalky. I like having Freiermuth as a backstop to Higbee because I would not, Higbee's fine. And Hurst, if Hurst is back. RIP Damian Pierce and Will Fuller. hopefully Nuke, hopefully for your sake, Nuke gets Colt McCoy back. But this team got lots of juice, and I'm not very excited about seeing it. And as I mentioned, I'm not excited about seeing Cam Akers teams in my contests. Yeah, I don't know how you get an Allen, Gabe, and Diggs team into the finals. Omar, I'm gonna go find your team right now because I saw you posted in here. And of course, good luck to you, Winky. I hope you finish second. I love you, but not really. I really do hope you finish second. Let's see. There's too many. Oh, here we go. Last two bullets. First one is in the front four set. We're gonna look at the Millie team. We're gonna look at the Millie team just because we're a little bit pressed for time. Malik Willis, you weren't kidding about the Malik Willis. I think that was you, Omar, that said you got a Malik Willis double stack in the Millie. Who's your other quarterback? Matt Ryan. Do you have another one? Oh, Hurts. Okay, so if Hurts, you're right. So you're just sitting here sweating. Hurts coming back all week. This damn Zoom is killing me. But Kamara, that's interesting. Kamara, Pollard, Jefferson, Devonta Smith. Man, dude, Devonta Smith is going to be so popular. It's crazy. Had a high advance rate anyway. Had like a high advance rate from the regular season. Smashed back-to-back weeks. Was one of the highest advance rate players to the semifinals and went for 34. 30 on, basically 30 on Underdog and 34 on DraftKings. Devonta Smith is going to be so chalky. I think he's on every single one of my teams. So we're going to be a chalk donkey this week. Gallup is an interesting one. More AJ Dillon. So much AJ Dillon. I have him. You guys have him. Gus, Paris Campbell. Yeah. Oh, Pitts. Damn. Pitts and Rondale. That sucks. That's brutal. And Hamler. My God, this team got bludgeoned by injuries. Could have been an awesome team. But I like a lot of some pretty strong leverage points on that team. Some very unique players. That's for sure. Let's look at the champs. Let's look at the reigning champs trying to defend his crown and capture a second Millie Maker in 2 years. Is rocking the Trevor Lawrence. Let me find some Jags. Trevor Lawrence to Zay Jones stack. Got the dueling 30-point games from tight ends, George Kittle and Tyler Higbee. Also has Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley. Also has Devonta Smith, Jalen Waddle, Brandon Ayuk, Rashad White, Gabe Davis, Antonio Gibson. We'll see if early reports are that he's kind of banged up. Mac Hollins. There we go. There's a fun one. Nico, RIP to Nico. But my God, is he ever going to play again? Probably not. RIP to my guy, Danny Gray, who has scored like 0 fantasy points the whole season. Devin Singletary. That's a good team. Of course, the reigning champ gets another smash team in there. All right, Jose, since you asked, we'll get it in here. Here we go. This works. Cousins. Is this another Cousins team without Justin Jefferson? That's interesting. Cousins and Dalvin. Okay, you just need Cousins to throw to Dalvin, but you have Patrick Mahomes. So I think you're doing just fine. More Devonta Smith, more T. Higgins, Donta Foreman. So you got to take advantage of. I like Ken Walker. The matchup isn't great with the Jets, but I think kind of like ETN last week, I think you can run a little bit on the Jets with some of their injuries up front and their awesome pass defense. I like Ken Walker this week. Has Jacobs, who all of a sudden has turned into a possible leverage play, assuming that they keep riding them. Also have Debo. Need Debo back this week. Corey Davis, nice boost for Corey Davis with Mike White, just like Garrett Wilson and Elijah. So I think you were asking, how live is it? You need some love, but I think you have some interesting, probably lower owned guys. Dalvin Cook, Ken Walker, which is funny. The Ken Walker is going to be probably a little bit lower owned, but Dalvin Cook, Ken Walker, actually kind of like Terrace Marshall. As crazy as that sounds, I'm not sure he's going to pop to win it for you, but you never know. You never know. Let me see. What was the second part? Josh Jacobs, if Debo and Olave come back, I think it can give you some extra juice. Give you some extra juice. But yeah, as you said, need some love. I would compare it to when I went through my teams, my third team in the $9 3 entry max. It's like you have some core pieces that are like, well, yeah, when I look at those core pieces, it's a smash. But then like once it gets so thin down the list, you're like, well, I basically need all my, how likely is it that all of your best players, the ones that you need, are all going to post ceiling games at the same time? They might all be fine, but you need them all to have big weeks. And that's just the hard part about when you get to week 17. Exactly like you said, you're sitting totally fine ownership wise, in my opinion, with the players that you have getting through, but you're just going to need to run, you need some of the chalk to bust, and you need, Ken Walker, right? Jacobs to pop back up. You need some of those and some guys to play. Debo, Olave specifically. All right, I'm gonna hit a couple more and then try to double back to as many of these as I can. I wanted to hit the people who posted first. So got Omar. Where did I leave off? We hit Updogs, DK Millie. Short Gamer TV. Mahomes team, another Ken Walker, Madison, Rashad White, Algier, McKinnon, and Zamir. Okay, I like it. See, I like this. This is interesting because if you could get that big Ken Walker game, which is, I'm not saying you're relying upon that. Technically, you could get, Algier or McKinnon could do it again. But I think Ken Walker is your greatest path. Ken Walker and Algier are your greatest paths to a big running back week that's also not like crazy chalky. And then you just need, one more of those guys, because you're obviously going to use Mahomes at quarterback, because you have Justin Jefferson, T. Higgins, Mike Williams, Devonta Smith, Hunter Renfrow, Garrett Wilson, Denzel Mims. Interesting, Denzel Mims. And then Kittle and Higbee. So like, your wide receivers are taking up most of your scores, and I think you have enough juice at the running back spot. Let's see. Kyle says, I just sampled 26 teams in the big dog, and rostership is more spread than I thought. Kittle was only 19%. I was thinking it would be 50. Yet one thing I will say with Kittle and with the tight end specifically is there were so many big tight end games. If Kittle, I know he did it 2 weeks ago, so that elevated his ownership last round. But if you were able to not need to have Kittle to advance, right? Higbee went just as nuts. Hawkinson was the tight end 1 on the week. There's probably other guys that I'm missing. I mean, Kelsey was fine. Ingram was fine. There was a lot of ways that you could get there at tight end. So it just played out in this weird way where even though he went absolutely ham, so many tight ends went absolutely ham. Modog is Zemo. Let me find Modog here. I'll hit these super quickly for in 3 US. Did I hit? No, I didn't hit these already. Here's a kind of unique blend of quarterbacks. We've seen a lot of Cousins. We're seeing a lot of Cousins, but he has Cousins, Sean Watson, and Jared Goff. Another Akers team: Akers, Dobbins, Pollard, Hunt, and McKinnon. If the Browns were to shut down Chubb, my God, I mean, it's already a good running back room, but my Lord. Another Jefferson team. Here's your Hawkinson with Fant. Fant helped you 2 weeks ago. Hawkinson got you last week. That's nice. Jefferson, Tyreek, Keenan. Cooks at least came back, but he's pretty useless, but not like you need him. Garrett Wilson, Jahan Dotson, KJ Osborne. Good team. And he has two teams in Best Ball Mania 3. That's nice. The other one is Lenny, Kamara, Gus Edwards, J.D. McKissick obviously hurt, and Jerick McKinnon. But Lenny, Kamara, mostly Jerick McKinnon. Those 3 is nice with Cousins, Lawrence, another Jefferson team. Definitely starting to feel Jefferson, Devonta Smith, right, are these guys that really just keep showing up constantly. Jefferson and Devonta Smith. Like we haven't even seen an A.J. Brown team. Every one of them is Devonta Smith. Metcalf, Elijah Moore, Christian Kirk, Tyler Lockett, if you could get Lockett back, right? And then obviously Kittle and Tunyon. Sorry, I wanted to hit, who was it? Mine is a little bit up. Yeah, Jacob says Devonta Smith has been smashing, obviously, just going completely freaking nuts in all right, here we go. Here is Mo Dog's BBM team. Okay, more Cousins. Look at this. This is a Kirk Cousins fam here, but Jalen Hurts, Chase Edmonds, I don't want to be counting upon Chase Edmonds, but if you want to possibly get, if you can possibly get an RB2 score out of him, right? So this team is very clearly needing Devin Singletary and Tyler Algier to be your two running backs and everything else carry it. But that's not out. That's not crazy. Devin Singletary just put up like 20 points last week. Tyler Algier has nearly scored, like he's been very close to scoring 20 points both of these 2 weeks. If you got 20 out of those guys or one of them, and Edmonds were to find his way to a decent game in a negative game script against the Chiefs, I've seen crazier stuff. Another Jefferson and Tyreek. Hold on. Jefferson, Tyreek, AJ Brown doesn't really get any better. That's like the optimal start, right? From a projection standpoint, upside standpoint, Jefferson, Tyreek, and AJ Brown. DeAndre Hopkins, George Pickens, Michael Gallup, even Quez is like a super interesting guy there at the end, and good enough tight ends, as we saw last week with Higbee, but Njoku, Higbee, Logan Thomas. That's a good team. Like you said, you're hoping to catch some luck, mainly at running back. Everywhere else is really good. You just need, right? You got 3 backs, and you need a little bit of a miracle probably, but it's not over. You know what I mean? I'm expecting reasonable scores out of Singletary and Algier. It's just can they spike, right? Because you're trying to win the thing, not just get like 12 points. You're trying to win the thing. Can they do that? All right. Really, really quickly, we just talked about a ton of different teams. Let's chat really super, super quickly about a very, very brief intro into week 17 and just start to wet our whistle with some games, teams, players, etc. that we are excited for. Let me zoom in a little bit. We have gone through a lot of kind of some of these matchups as we've talked through a lot of these teams. But I did think that Arizona and Atlanta game was one I was really excited about in the preseason. Now, all the good players are hurt. Not all, obviously. But it went from a game where I think, the Kyler stacks looked really good. And even, Pitts, London, or whatever. I think London is fine. Excuse me, sorry. Having London, I think, would be fine in that game. But I think it's the 2 running backs or the 3 running backs if you want to throw CPAT into there. Having Connor, CPAT, and particularly Algier between the Falcons guys. It's a good spot for all those guys involved, I think. Obviously, Connor has been really crushing it here these last couple of weeks, and the matchup is good for him. We will talk plenty. I'm not going to talk more about Bills Bengals. We will definitely be talking plenty of that. But the two games personally I'm most interested in / most excited for in terms of fantasy upside, when I have guys in these games that I want to like truly pop off, it is Bears, Lions, 2 of the worst defenses in the NFL, with both the Lions offense is quite good. The Bears offense, Fields in particular, is good enough to help provide some juice. Like Fields can have an absolute monster game here. I'm not sure he has a stacking partner, I guess, other than maybe Cole Kmet that's relevant, but he could have an absolutely monster game here. And on the Lions side, a late round Goff 25+ point game is not out of the realm of possibility. If you were able to sneak Swift or Jamal Williams in there at running back, they have upside. Amon-Ra is one of the best wide receivers of any price, right? He was a 5th round pick, and he projects almost as well as literally anyone against this Bears defense. Just an absolute smash spot. But that makes DJ Chark, right? There's just a lot of goodness in this game. It's kind of the Coors Field if you play MLB DFS or gamble on baseball or anything. It's kind of the Coors Field game to me. But the other one that I think could rival it in terms of Coors Field is Houston and Jacksonville. Like if you were able to weather the storm we did see a decent clip of Jacksonville, and I'm also a little biased because I have my two main teams both have Jacksonville stacks. But if you're able to weather the storm, right, without Zay, without Kirk, Ingram was good, but with a 19-point game from Trevor Lawrence, if you're able to get through, now you get what you want. You get the Texans. My favorite guy still, actually, probably my favorite guy, if you could pick one player to have gotten through into this round, I do think it's hilariously, if you listen to the shanty at the start where Rob makes fun of Travis Etienne, I think Etienne's the one, like if you could pick one guy, like who could I get through, right? Considering upside, ownership, everything like that. I'm 99.999% certain it's Travis Etienne for me. It's just a smash spot, workhorse back, crazy high upside, low ownership. What more can you ask for? But it also could Lawrence. That doesn't mean that Lawrence, Zay, Kirk, Ingram, even Marvin don't have huge upside. Do they have monster upside? And Houston has just been taking people to the freaking woodshed for the last few weeks, man. Could have won the last 3 games, 2 of which were against 2 of the best teams in the NFL, the Chiefs and the Cowboys. They're playing well right now on offense. Not really playing well on defense, but they're playing well right now on offense. And so that game is the other one. There was one more I was going to mention. Oh yeah, Jets. So the Seattle defense still stinks. The Jets are bringing Mike White back. So it's Mike White with Joe Flacco backing him up there, officially canceling the Zach Wilson experiment 2.0. And they're going back to Mike White now that he's officially cleared and healthy. And it is wheels freaking up on Jets players, I think. If you have Garrett Wilson, you're back to a monster upside for Garrett Wilson. Elijah Moore has sneaky upside now. I don't know about Michael Carter, but it's certainly a more upside that Michael Carter has now than he had before. Tyler Conklin, right? Even Corey Davis, any of these guys, could pop up with Mike White back there in this matchup against Seattle. Now, on the flip side, tough matchup for Seattle, but I think if they're going to have some success, it's going to be a little bit similar to Jacksonville last week, where Geno's are like Lawrence is fine passing. He played pretty well, but he didn't like blow anybody away with his passing numbers. And then you're grinding out ETN. You're grinding out Ken Walker on the ground. I think they did just put Will Dissly on IR, so it's going to be Fant and Colby Parkinson. We saw Evan Ingram light the Jets up last week. I am not expecting that from Fant and Colby Parkinson, but I do think it's possible they could get down in this game. And, DK Metcalf is a baller, but Sauce and DJ Reed on the outside are just really good players. It's a really good pass defense, particularly on the perimeter. And so, again, probably a little more bullish for Walker and maybe Fant if I were picking some Seattle guys. But those are 3 of the games I thought were kind of the most intriguing. We will definitely most intriguing outside of 2, which is the Super Bowl of this week, is Monday night, Bills, Bengals, and then also Modog bringing up the Philly thing. We'll definitely talk more about Philly. I just want to, before I spend a bunch of time diving into Hurts and Philly, I think it would just be wise for us to see if we get any more news. I know the latest news we have is that Jalen Hurts is going to try to play or going to push to play. So we'll see. I want to at least get maybe a practice or 2 under our belts before we dive into the Eagles game. And we will be spending plenty of time talking about Bills, Bengals. So I wanted to talk into a couple of those other games that I thought were kind of the games I'm honestly most excited for, relative, maybe especially relative to the field. I do got to get running. I see your questions. 2 mics, Mike Rob and Mike M. I see your questions. You can bring them into the Discord if you would like, and lots of other smarter, even people smarter than I, will be there to answer questions for you and chat strategy. Or we'll be back tomorrow more week 17 prep. I want to continue to double back and hit your guys' questions. I want to get through some more lineup review, and then we're going to start to dig into some actual ownership and everything in these contests, right? We'll mostly be able to see it for underdog, but we'll start looking at the BBM finals ownership. We'll start looking at right puppies and super flex and ownership, and maybe some potential leverage opportunities. So we're going to start digging into the specific tournaments, contests, and everything for week 17 tomorrow. Thank you for hanging out. If you're dropping out of here, hit the like button on the way out, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Enjoy the kickoff of week 17.